Thanks to my generous supporters who have donated through PayPal and Venmo. There are links in the description below if you would like to donate to the channel. Please like and subscribe. Make sure you check back every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern for new videos on YouTube from Backyard Broadheads. We're going to talk about and look at 3 awesome crossbows today. In the description below, there's other videos that I have about these crossbows if you want to check that out. Also in the description below, there's links to get these on Amazon. Amazon has them cheaper than the manufacturer's website has them, and Amazon returns are easy. Don't forget to also check eBay. If you're getting a crossbow from eBay, I recommend purchasing it new from eBay. Used on eBay, if you're going to go that route, just do your due diligence and research. Don't make a quick purchase of a used crossbow on eBay. Just check everything out before you make that purchase. We're going to talk about the Raven R29, the Centerpoint CP400, and the Centerpoint Wrath 430. I currently have the Raven. I used to have the CP400, and my friend has the Wrath 430, so I have handled and shot the Wrath 430. The only negative he ever really says about the Wrath 430 is that he feels like it's front end heavy. I shot it. It's a very smooth shooting crossbow. It shoots smoother than the other two. I don't like how the cams are pretty big and they stick out. That's like the widest part of the crossbow. But for hunting purposes, that's probably not going to be an issue. And it has the longest power stroke out of these 3 crossbows and the biggest cams, and that makes it the most efficient. And a little side note, if you want to get more into efficiency about crossbows, Rich at deathbybungee.com has an awesome crossbow efficiency calculator. You should check that out, also in the description. Back to these crossbows. The Wrath is the smoothest shooting because it has the longest power stroke and the biggest cam, so it's the most efficient. If that's your thing, you might want to go with the Wrath 430. Let's go ahead and start looking at the different specs on these crossbows. Alright, so the weight of these crossbows. The Raven is 6.75 pounds. It feels a little bit heavy to me. I've never picked up a crossbow and thought, man, this is too heavy to hunt with. That's never been an issue for me. But I have picked up my older Barnett crossbows, like my Barnett Raptor FX2. I have picked that up and thought, man, this is light and this is cool. But I'm comfortable with hunting with any crossbow I've ever picked up. Weight's not an issue for me. The CP400 is a little bit heavier, 7.1 pounds. And the Wrath 430 is 8.3 pounds. I've heard multiple people say the Wrath 430 does feel front end heavy. If you have a deer staring at you, I don't think it matters a whole lot what crossbow you're holding up and holding the weight and trying to stay motionless. It's going to get heavy. The lighter it is, the longer you can hold it. If weight's your thing, then the Raven is the lightest one. The speed of these crossbows, it's very easy to pick a winner on that because the R29 is the fastest at 430 feet per second. The CP400 will shoot right around 400 feet per second, maybe 398. The Wrath 430, it's called the Wrath 430, but it's going to shoot about 405 feet per second. All of these speeds are plenty for hunting white-tailed deer. And the speed, when you're at those speeds, the speed really isn't too big of a factor. Like my Raven R29, I have heavier arrows in there, so it's shooting slower. It's not shooting 430 feet per second. It's shooting right around 400 feet per second. And that is plenty fast. For hunting situations, you can certainly get a deer at 50 yards when you're shooting around 400 feet per second. If you have a rock solid rest, I think 60 yards. Those are the speeds. R29 is the clear winner. A lot of people, including me, I like the compact crossbows. So the Raven, axle to axle cocked, is only 6 inches wide. The CP400 shares the same riser and limb, so it's going to be 6 inches wide. Cams stick out a little bit more. If you're really interested in how wide all these crossbows are, there is a crossbow width video that I made in the description below. And the Wrath 430, that one is 9 inches wide, axle to axle, and then you have big cams, so they stick out a little bit more. The nice thing is, though, that width on the crossbow is at the middle of the crossbow. It's not at the front, it's not at the back. It's in the middle where it's really not in your way. In most hunting situations, that's a good place for it to be wide. And those big cams give you efficiency. Think about those cams in a way like if you could take that cam and just draw a line from the center of it to where the string is last touching it. And so here's your circle, but that is like your lever. and you're getting more speed by having the bigger cams. Similar to how, if you compare throwing a spear to throwing an atlatl. A spear, you just have your arm and whatever length your arm is from maybe your shoulder to your hand or from your elbow to your hand. You just have that leverage. But that atlatl is giving you more leverage, a bigger lever, and the end of that lever is going to travel faster. So that's how you're getting more efficiency. Also, let's talk about the power stroke. So the power stroke on the Raven is 12.5 inches. The power stroke on the CP400 is a little bit longer because the CP400 doesn't have a cocking sled. So that cocking sled, it takes up a little bit of space. You lose a little bit of your power stroke. You lose a little bit of efficiency when you have a cocking sled. And then the Wrath 430 is 15 inches. So in efficiency, the Wrath 430 is the clear winner. It's the smoothest shooting. It probably kicks the least. It's probably the quietest. And it's the smoothest shooting because of the long power stroke and the size of the cams. With a long power stroke, that crossbow doesn't have to get that arrow up to around 400 feet per second in such a short distance. It has more distance and more time to get that arrow up to speed, which increases the efficiency. The length on these crossbows, they're all similar length. Once again, I like the compact crossbows. The R29 is 29 inches long. The CP400 is about 32 inches long. And the Wrath 430 is 28 inches long. With the Raven, you don't have a stirrup in the front, and nothing is adjustable on the buttstock, so that's your set length. With the CP400, you have an adjustable buttstock, which is cool. The only thing about it is it rattles. I wish they would have just taken the extra time to design it so it didn't rattle, but you lock it into place and it rattles. Now when you go to shoot and you have it up against your shoulder, it's tight, it's not going to rattle. It doesn't affect the performance of the crossbow, but it just kind of sucks that you have that rattle. The stirrups on these crossbows. The Raven doesn't come with a stirrup because it uses a crank, so it doesn't need one for your foot. I do make some products that will still give you somewhere to hang it up. They will act as a bipod for you. They will act as a hanger. They will make it so you can set it down on the ground and lean it on something. They also help with cocking and decocking. You can check those out from the description below. It's the 4-in-1 and the heart drop. Also, the length of the CP400 kind of changes depending on whether or not you have the stirrup straight out or whether you have it down. That stirrup does not lock into place. The stirrup on the CP400 is big, it's kind of ugly, but it's extremely functional. The most functional thing about it is you can have big hunting boots on, you can be in your tree stand, and your boots are probably going to fit into that stirrup. Also, it acts as a bipod, so that's kind of cool too. If your foot barely fits into a stirrup and you're trying to cock that thing, that is a huge safety issue. Anytime you're not sure whether or not your foot's going to stay in that stirrup, whether you're hunting or not, don't continue cocking the crossbow. Figure something else out. If it means you don't get to take a shot at a deer or even a second shot at a deer, still don't do it. Getting hurt, falling out of your tree stand is not worth it. Figure out another way to cock the thing, figure out another way to get another shot at that animal. But the ultimate winner for stirrup coolness from the factory is the Wrath 430 because it goes straight out, locks into position, straight down. I believe it locks straight down, and it locks folded all the way in. So folding all the way in, that's a really cool feature. So stirrup from the factory, Wrath 430 is the easy winner on that. Price on these crossbows and the country in which they're made. So let's talk about the CP400 and kind of the differences between it and the Raven. So your CP400 is made in China, okay? And your Raven is made in the USA. So let's add $200 for that. So that takes you from $600 to $800. Then your Raven has a built-in crank. Let's add $200 for that. That gets you to $1,000. The Raven is more compact. That gets you to $1,200. So those are some of the differences that you're paying for. You're probably also paying for the name somewhat too, the coolness factor. So it's up to you. With this video, we can take a look at the different parameters and you can make your own decision on which one you want. I do have a clear winner at the end of this video strictly for hunting. I have a clear winner strictly for coolness, and I have a clear winner strictly for size versus price. So your price on your Raven is $1,849. The price on the CP400 is $624, and the price on the Wrath 430 is $549. The scopes on these crossbows. The Raven and the CP400 are going to come with the Raven style reticle. I don't like the reticle. The reticles are too small, each of them individually. The overall reticle all of them together is too small, and the 20 and 30 are too close together. A lot of people also don't like the low light performance on these scopes. Some people love them, so keep that in mind. You might want to upgrade the scope on the CP400 or the R29. The scope on the Wrath 430, if you're just using it for hunting, it's fine. Beyond that, I'm not sure about the low light performance. I'm not sure how it is for target shooting. I'm not sure how it is for long range shooting. But strictly for hunting, as long as you're not dealing with low light, I think the scope on the Wrath is fine. The caulking on these crossbows. The Raven is a clear winner for me. It has a built-in sled, so all you need is the crank. The crank hooks to the front of the crossbow. When it's hooked to the front of the crossbow, it doesn't rattle at all. It's on there rock solid. The other two have a caulking sled with a rope. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that system. I used to shoot my barnets all the time with a caulking rope that didn't even have a sled, and that was absolutely fine. But it's like anything else. Once you get something cooler, you don't really want to go back. Now let's talk about the draw weight, what each draw weight is, and why they are different from each other. The draw weight is the heaviest on the R29. Even though these crossbows all shoot around the same speed, their power strokes are around the same length, the draw weights are different, and here's why. The user's draw weight on the R29 is about 12 pounds, and that's with the crank. But the force that the sled has to put on the string is about 280 pounds, because once you get to the sled, there's no more mechanical advantage between the sled and the string. It's just hooking on the string and pulling it back. Now let's talk about the CP400 and the Wrath 430. Their draw weight is advertised at 200 pounds instead of around 280 pounds. The actual force put on that string probably is around 270 pounds, I would guess. But the reason why it's advertised at 200 is because of the mechanical advantage that you're getting out of the caulking rope and sled. It's acting the same as a pulley system acts. It's hooking on here, but it's also hooking on back here. So you're pulling a further distance with your hands than what that sled is moving, and you're getting a pulley type mechanical advantage. So you don't have to pull back 270 pounds, you only have to pull back 200 pounds. So that's why you're seeing those big differences in draw weight, R29 280 and the other two 200 pounds. Okay, let's talk about the cams on these crossbows. I like the looks of the cams on the R29 and the CP400. They are the same, they're the same size, everything's the same about them. And I like that they're small and they're out of your way. They're not sticking out too far when it's uncocked. When it's cocked, they're in only about as far as the limbs are. So looks-wise, they're cool. Now, these are both pretty loud crossbows. If you don't like that, you might not want to get one of those two. And then the cams on the Wrath 430, I really don't like the looks of them, but over time, the more I think about it, it's starting to grow on me. If you want a really efficient crossbow, get a Scorpion crossbow. They're reverse limb, they have a gigantic power stroke, and they have big cams. They're the quietest, most efficient crossbows you're going to find out there. If that's your thing, get one of those. And they are made in the USA. So back to the Wrath 430. The big cams are starting to grow on me. Now let's talk about the winners and the different categories for these crossbows, in my opinion. Strictly for hunting, I think the Wrath 430 is the winner. It's compact, it's fast, it shoots smooth, it's not expensive. I haven't heard about anybody having any kind of problems with them. And let me explain it to you like this. If I was going hunting with an outfitter and they provided everything including the crossbows, and it costs 3 times more to hunt with a Raven versus them giving me a Wrath 430, then I'm definitely going to be hunting with the Wrath 430. The only way that wouldn't be the case is if I was trying to show off my products on the Raven, but I'd be hunting with the Wrath 430. Also, the Wrath compared to the CP400, if it was say $50 or $100 more to hunt with the CP400, once again, I'm going to pick the Wrath. It's compact, it's plenty fast, it shoots smooth. So I think in the category of strictly for hunting, I think the Wrath 430 is the winner. Now, if having a narrow crossbow is your thing, and you factor in the price of the CP400 versus the Raven, they're going to be the same width. It's just that the CP400 is going to be a little heavier, a little bit longer, and the caulking's not as cool. But for narrowness and price and value, the CP400 is definitely the winner. Now, overall coolness and the fact that it's made in the USA, my favorite overall is definitely the R29. The built-in crank is a huge thing that I like. I'm still going to enjoy shooting my Barnett, and having to use the rope cocker is not an issue, but I really like the crank. It's way safer if you have to cock the R29 in a tree stand to have the crank than to have to stand up. Like, you can just crank it while you're sitting down. So for safety in the tree stand, it's definitely better. It's going to be less movement, even if you're in a ground blind, to go ahead and cock the Raven R29 than it would be to have to, stand up again and use the rope and the sled with the CP400 or the Wrath 430. So those are my winners. What do you think? Overall coolness, Raven. Narrowness, value, CP400. Strictly for hunting, Wrath 430. And you can click on these other videos for more R29 stuff, more CP400 stuff, and more Wrath 430 stuff.